Greetings. My name is Louise Dente, and I welcome you to yet another edition of Cultural Caravan. On this edition, we welcome back Mr. Raymond Dugue. He is the second Assistant President General of the UNIA. Welcome to Cultural Caravan.
Thank you for having me, Sister Louise.
Great. Now, on our first part of our conversation about the African presence in Haiti, you talked about the series of events that led to the Haitian Revolution. Can you just briefly summarize for our audience what the role of Jean Jacques Dessalines was in terms of taking us to the revolution?
First of all, I'm summarizing it, but this needs to be told that we Africans have always resisted. It wasn't just in Saint-Domingue, it wasn't just in Jamaica, it wasn't just in Cuba, it wasn't just in Brazil, it wasn't just every place that we were enslaved, we resisted. We fought everywhere, starting from Africa, starting through the trek to the coast, starting and continuing on the boat, everything. And we have to give homage to those true heroes and heroines who took their lives. You have to understand, they took their lives on what they call the Atlantic slave trade. They decided, after everything had been exhausted, that they couldn't continue. So we have to pay homage to that. Now, back to that, everywhere in the Virgin Islands, everywhere, Dutch as well as the American Virgin Islands, everywhere we resisted. So that's first of all. So the resistance was always going. Why it succeeded in Haiti, I think it comes back to one person, Mackendal, who understood it was bigger than he or his comfort zone. He really was practicing race first. And I think that's the whole difference. Now, it continues. Then you get Dessalines, who comes on the scene. And I have to say this is the finest, one of the finest military strategists we've ever produced. And I put him in the same category as I said, Shabaka from Kemet, Pianki from Kemet, Narmer, the very first pharaoh, and then we're talking Ramses. So we're talking top. Anyway, Dessalines brings us into liberation. He establishes the government. He gives that Declaration of Independence. He uplifts our people. He establishes what they call the Dessalines philosophy, where as long as you step foot on that island, you are no longer enslaved, you are free, but more importantly, you are a citizen. You have a government institution that will support you. So for all of those reasons, and Dessalines brings out the best in our people, where, I don't know how else to say this, he was a true leader. He's not like our misleaders. He stood for the people, and in one of his speeches, he says, my purpose is to share the benefits with all of our people. So this was something revolutionary. And let me say this, I don't know if it's been said enough, but I have to inform you that the Haitian Revolution is the most profound revolution in the history of humankind and is the most underemphasized military victory in the history of the world. For those reasons, because which slave master, which oppressor would want the people that he's oppressing to know that they can defeat militarily and that they can do for themselves?
As you said, the Haitian Constitution was a powerful document. So we're going to talk about that and talk about what led to this document being developed.
Okay. Something before we get to the Constitution, I have to mention this. You briefly mentioned Cécile Fatima. Mm-hmm. I didn't mention Sani Belizaire. I didn't mention Marie-Jeanne Lamartinière. And there's a reason I glossed over it. There is no reason, but I need to inform the Africans that were fighting in that Haitian Revolution. at least 30% of the combatants, I mean soldiers, the leaders, the visionaries, these were our sisters, our women. So all homage is, all respect is due to black women, because at least, in fact, Dessalines' primary security guards were the sisters. I mean, there is a battle, they call it Caravan. It started March 4th, 1802 to March 24th. Lasted almost a month. And this is the most famous scene in Haitian history. There's a painting where Dessalines says, for all of you that want to remain slaves, that want to continue being wretched, you stay here and die. For everyone else who wants freedom and liberty, follow me. He says that speech, he inspires our people. Guess who's the first person to say, I will follow you to the death? Marie-Jeanne Lamartinière. It's amazing. Our black women, our queens, have always been there. And you have to understand, as I said, we don't write the history. You have to understand who's writing the history, and then, they're sexist, they're misogynist philosophy, so they never ever give black women enough credit, but they were there all the time. In fact, Cécile Fatima is the one who directs, who does the invocation, the sacred blessing on August 14th of 1791. That starts the real Haitian Revolution. Okay, having said that, and you mentioned that what was happening in Saint-Domingue, how it affected the African world. October 10, 1800, Norfolk, Virginia, Gabriel Prosser is killed. Gabriel Prosser was an African enslaved in Virginia. He had organized a group of Africans. They were going to kill their slave masters, bombardier a boat, and travel to Saint-Domingue. Imagine that. Toussaint's still in charge. Toussaint hasn't even done his Constitution of 1801. So just think about it. October 10, 1800, the news had already been broadcast all over the Caribbean, all over North America. Everybody was following what was going on in that place, because Gabriel Prosser's plan was to commandeer a boat, get to Haiti. And this is way before anything. So having said that, the whole world, the whole planet knew what was going on. And all of the Europeans, all of the Caucasians were rooting for the French, because they believed in race first. Anyway, Dessalines establishes the government. Oh gosh, let me say this. This is the finest document we Africans have ever produced since being departed from Africa. It goes into effect May 20, 1805. There are two components of the Constitution. The first part is what they call the preliminary declarations. The second part is the general dispositions. The preliminary has got 53 articles. The general dispositions has 28 articles. Let's start, and as I go over it, you'll be able to appreciate the history, what led to that. Article number 1, it says, the inhabitants of the land formerly known as Saint-Domingue will come together to form a free and sovereign state independent of anybody else. And the name of that island will be the Empire of Haiti. Why that's important, Sister Louise? The name was always Haiti. When Columbus and his evildoers came there, in 1493, and 1492, and 1496, it was always known as Haiti, a land of many mountains. That was always known. The French took it over, they call it Saint-Domingue. Okay, so now Dessalines says the first act we must do to show that we're better than the oppressors, because his soldiers, the Congos, the very finest soldiers, they wanted to rename the island either New Africa or Little Africa. Dessalines said, no, we cannot do that. We would be no different than the oppressor. This is the name of the indigenous population. We shall pay homage to them, because none of them exist. They were all massacred. But Dessalines insisted we rename this island to pay homage and respect to those people that had been massacred by these evildoers. So to Dessalines, that was the most important thing. The second article, he says slavery is abolished. He says all Africans on the planet Whenever you step foot on that island, number one, you become independent. But more importantly, you become a citizen. You have an institution that will defend and protect you. Item number 3, and now you understand where Dessalines was taking this state to. Item number 3, all of the inhabitants of this island that we call Haiti are brothers and sisters. We are one. We stand for each other. We cannot disrespect each other. We must work in harmony. That's article number 3. Let's skip article number 7. He says, no citizen. Now you're a citizen. See how he makes it. No longer an inhabitant. You're a citizen of this island. No citizen of Haiti can continue if you immigrate and you go to another land. Meaning, you've got to stay here and build it. You know, so many of us feel the need. We can't stay in our communities. We got to go to other communities. Or if we're from different countries, we got to come to the Big Apple. But no, Dessalines says we build it here because we've got an obligation to rebuild our people. So since we're here, we're going to build it here. And so, Sister Louise, let me recite item number 9 in Creole for you. And even that is revolutionary. Let me explain how Creole was created. What happened is you had a whole bunch of groups of Africans from different parts, different languages. So as we were being enslaved, the true genius of Africans, they realized we need a common language. We can't use the oppressor language, so let's create a language. This is nothing short of genius, how Creole was created. So all of the different African groups, and since the slave master, the evildoer were the French. So they used some of the French words, but it's African syntax, African philosophy. And some of the words that we say in Creole, if you're in West Africa, people say the same things because it's the same. So it's nothing short of true genius. What's happened is Creole is being labeled as quote unquote broken French, as uneducated. No. It is an African-based language, something you should be proud of. Personally, when I speak Creole, I cannot tell you how proud I am. And when I speak Creole with other Africans from Haiti. Now, for the French, the reason why I speak the French is for the Africans in Africa, because it's amazing how when you meet them and you start speaking French to them, everybody gets disarmed. It's like, oh, my brother, how are you? For our listeners who are of Haitian descent, who have children, please make sure that you impress upon them the necessity of speaking Creole because it binds us. I mean, there's nothing, when you speak that language, you get a connection. So with that, so item number 9, let me recite it in Creole for you. Un bon haïtien, c'est un bon papa, c'est un bon petit, c'est un bon mari. Et ça qui est important plus que tout l'autre bail, faut qu'il y ait un bon soldat. A good Haitian. No person is worth of being known as Haitian unless he is a good father, a good son, a good husband. And what's more important than anything else is to be a good soldier, to defend and protect your people. And this is true Dessalines philosophy. I mean, all he wanted to do was to serve his people. So that's article number 9. Article 11. This is amazing. 1805, Dessalines already realized that. Every Haitian must have a mechanical art. Meaning, you have to be productive. Studying psychology, sociology may be good for certain societies, but you have to work with your hands. You have to be able to produce, provide. Now, Article 12 is the basis of the Haitian Constitution. It says, no white man of any country or persuasion shall ever step foot on this island with the title of master or proprietor. Never, ever. Nor shall he ever, ever have the ability to purchase property. This was the Dessalines philosophy. No white man can ever come back here. That was Article 12. Now, Article 14. This is where Dessalines wraps it all up. This is 1805, May 20. You know what Article 14 says? From this point on, all Haitians are black. Race first. What he's saying is, we are Africans, cut the bluff, understand that we are African. We can only be African. So this was in the Constitution. Can you imagine? And let me say this, why the study of the Haitian Revolution is so important. And I'm skipping around. You know why? All of these ex-colonies, we're talking Angola, we're talking Zimbabwe, we're talking Mozambique, all of them, they also had to make a decision. As they were gaining their independence, should we allow these Caucasians, the evildoers, the ones who had been colonizing, oppressing us, should we allow them back to be the managers, or should we be independent? Dessalines gave you the solution. They should never. No, these are evil people. This is their legacy. Never, ever let them return. So that was Article 14. So let's skip. And then here's something important. And this is important to realize from the very beginning, Dessalines was always outnumbered, in the sense that he really believed in Africa and black people and race first. All of these other so-called generals, they were always plotting against him. So one of the plots that they came up to him, and they said to Dessalines, you know, look at France, look at England, look at Netherlands. All of them have an emperor. All of them have a monarchy. And that's why they're so strong. So we have to have a monarchy. You know, we need an emperor. So part of the Constitution, Dessalines becomes an emperor. But he plays them with Article 23. He says, the crown is elective, not hereditary. All those other places, it's hereditary. You know, I'm king, my children become prince and nobles and kings. He said, sure, you want an emperor? You want a monarchy? No problem. But it's elective. The people have to decide. This is true African democracy. Europe doesn't even understand that. So this is Article 23. But here it is. Moving now. Article 50, 51, 52. It's about worship. Get this. You know, when Toussaint establishes the Constitution in 1801, July 12, he says Catholicism is the state religion. You know, now, the people meeting with Dessalines, they want to pull the same thing. Dessalines said, no, then why were we fighting? I mean, the whites were the evil ones. You know, the white Jesus, the white servant, the white lords. Why would we want Catholicism? So he put his foot down and said, okay, you know what we'll do? You can have any religion you want. Freedom of worship. And it will be tolerated. But the state will not support it. So Articles 50, 51, 52 is about worship. And it was specifically to denounce those people, the one that were plotting against Dessalines, because they wanted Catholicism. They wanted white images. So Dessalines was asking, why were we fighting? What's the purpose of the revolution? I mean, maybe you guys forgot we were under enslavement, chattel slavery. So that's the end of the first part of the Constitution, the preliminary declarations. Now, when he gets to general dispositions, this is nothing short of revolutionary. The first couple of articles, there are 28 articles. The first couple articles expresses how the emperor will work, you know, how he will respect everyone. Article 6, the house of every citizen is an inviolable asylum, meaning your home is your kingdom. No one can ever come into your home, no security person, no police, no military. Your home is your asylum. That will be protected. Item number 8, and this is important, why he has to put item number 8 in it. Look what happens. First, he says in the preliminary declarations that the name of the island is Haiti. Then he says slavery is forever abolished. Article 3 states we are all brothers. All brothers. We stand for one. And then Article 14 says we are black. So we are black brothers. Okay. Article 8 of the general dispositions, he says death is given to all who commit death. Why does he say that? And in the research, Dessalines kept arguing. He said, no. There are two types of crimes. There's regular crime, you know, you commit a crime, you commit a felony. But then there's other crime because of self-hatred. any African in Haiti who kills another African, you will be put to death, because we're all brothers, we're all black, we are one. You will never be given the opportunity to attack and kill your own kind. This is so revolutionary. This is race first. This is Article 8. Now, let's wrap it up. Article 19, 20, 21, 22. Article 19, this is the first of its kind ever in the history of the New World. Article 19 says Haiti will be broken up into 6 military divisions. Each military division must have a public school to educate our youth. Education was never about the masses in Europe. It was always for the elite. What Dessalines establishes, we must educate our people for the continuity of our species. Nobody had ever heard that. That's Article 19. Article 20. Article 20. Let me pull it out for you. Article 20. Article 20 says that the national colors of Haiti are black and red. Black for the race and red for the blood that must be shed for your independence. This is the Dessalines flag, the black and red. That's Article 20. Article 21, and this relates to the work that we're doing with the Rock in Liberia. Article 21 states, agriculture, as it is the first, the most noble, and the most useful of all the arts, shall be honored and protected. No, Sister Louise, no entity, no country, no nation has ever eradicated poverty without agriculture. In fact, the great empires of Kemet, of Ghana, of Mali, of Songhai, of Monomatopa, of Zimbabwe, all of our empires, of Mali, Timbuktu, agriculture was always at the beginning. That's Article 21. Article 22, commerce, the second most important asset of a country, shall be protected. Trade and commerce. Start with your agriculture, trade and commerce. Article 24, any negotiation, any contract must be in good faith. You cannot cheat your brother. Can you imagine what he's saying? Number one, we're all brothers. Number two, we're all black. Number two, you can never take the life of another African. And number three, any contract must be in good faith because we're all brothers. This is revolutionary. And then Article 27 and 28, I'm going to wrap it up. Article 27 says that we must have national holidays. The first holiday shall be for independence. The second holiday shall be the birth of your leader. The third holiday is for the agriculture, of the harvesting, because that's the wealth of the nation. And the fourth holiday is the Constitution. Article 28, Sister Louise, it says, anytime we are attacked upon, meaning when the oppressors, the former enslavers, anytime we're attacked upon, anytime there's the alarm that's rung, burn the cities, go to the mountains. Meaning that even if we built it, if you come to attack us, we'll burn it so there's nothing for you. Because the philosophy was always race first for our independence, death or independence. And lastly, let me say this. If you look at the map of the Caribbean, where Haiti, so until now I had been calling it Saint-Domingue, but after the Constitution, it's Haiti. So that's important to know. But anyway, if you look at the map of the Caribbean, on the western end of the Caribbean, you've got Cuba, you've got Cayman Islands, you've got Jamaica, you've got Haiti. On the eastern end of the Caribbean, you've got Trinidad, you've got Guadeloupe, Martinique, St. Kitts, and Tobago. Dessalines' vision was, after having established and freed Haiti, to take the revolution to Guadeloupe and Martinique, because number one, that's where the French army was still at. Don't forget, when in December of 1801 up until February of 1802, when Napoleon sent his armada back to reestablish slavery, of the 82,000 soldiers, 20,000 landed in Martinique and Guadeloupe, where they reestablished slavery. The other 60,000 went to Haiti, or Saint-Domingue, excuse me. And so and we speak the same language they do. So he wanted to get that in Martinique, Guadeloupe. So you would have the two ends of the Caribbean and then slowly squeeze in the middle. The plan was to liberate all of Africans. And then ultimately he told his soldiers, the Congos, then we can go back home.
What do you feel the message that you want people to take away from today in terms of understanding?
Thank you, Sis Louise. The message is clear. Number one is no one is coming to our rescue. We must do that for ourselves. And we have to put our heads together. We have to believe in ourselves. And for African youth, African people, we are African. And nothing can ever, nobody can ever take that away from us. And let me say this, Sister Louise. There is a direct line from what we call Haitian culture to African music and African drumming. It's the same people. I mean, when Haiti was established, it was an African state. So no one is coming to our rescue. And the other thing is, the ones that run the world, the powers that be, that write the books, that write the history books, they will try to denigrate and make us believe we're inferior, that we can never do anything. Haiti burns that idea down. I mean, this is a most profound revolution where formerly enslaved individuals, we're talking Africans, would rise up, defeat their oppressors. And it wasn't just the French. We actually defeated the top 3 armies of the world, the Spanish, the British, and the French. And then we go out and establish a nation. Unfortunately, not all of our people were on board. For example, several signers of the independence, we're talking about, these were all generals, by the way, Nicolas Geoffroy, you had Élie Gérin, you had Henri Christophe, and the most evildoer of them all, Alexandre Pétion. They got together, formed a complot, and assassinated Dessalines because Dessalines wanted to share the riches of the country with the people.
Well, you know, I first of all want to thank you so much for coming and for sharing this very important part of our history as it relates to our experience here in North America, and particularly one of the most successful revolution in the Western Hemisphere. I think just giving it from our perspective of what happened and what lessons are learned. And certainly, we got to bring you back again, and I want to thank you so much. But again, so thank you so much for joining us, and we will have you back again like that. So for our audience, I just want to say I hope you've enjoyed this broadcast, and I hope we invite you to continue tuning in. But until next time, Louise Dente saying thank you.